One of the hardest expressions for English speakers to translate when they're learning Spanish is to have a hard time doing something, because there's no literal equivalent in Spanish. If you translate it as,
Tener un duro tiempo haciendo algo.
let me tell you right now, you won't sound natural, and most native Spanish speakers probably won't understand what you're trying to say. The problem is that you're translating the expression word for word from English. In Spanish, though, we express that idea differently. In natural Spanish, we don't use expressions like.
Tener un tiempo duro.
Instead, we choose different structures depending on the context. Here are the most common and natural ones. Costar plus infinitive. This is by far the most common and natural option across the Spanish-speaking world. Example, I'm having a hard time understanding this.
Me cuesta entender esto. Me está costando entender esto.
Don't say,
Estoy teniendo un duro tiempo entendiendo esto.
that literal translation doesn't sound natural in Spanish. Instead, use costar plus infinitive. Resultar difícil or resultar complicado plus infinitive. This option is slightly more formal or simply a bit more neutral. Example, she had a hard time finding a job.
Le resultó difícil encontrar trabajo. Le resultó complicado encontrar trabajo.
Don't say,
Ella tuvo un duro tiempo encontrando trabajo.
in Spanish, we naturally use resultar difícil or resultar complicado, followed by an infinitive. Tener problemas para plus infinitive. We use this structure when we want to emphasize that someone is having difficulty doing something. Example, he's having a hard time breathing.
Tiene problemas para respirar.
Don't say,
Él está teniendo un duro tiempo respirando.
that's just a literal translation from English, and it doesn't sound natural. Instead, use tener problemas para plus infinitive. Pasarlo mal or pasarlas canutas, informal expressions. If someone really struggled or went through a difficult experience, these expressions work well. Example, they had a hard time finishing the project on time.
Lo pasaron mal para terminar el proyecto a tiempo. Las pasaron canutas para terminar el proyecto a tiempo.
Don't say,
Ellos tuvieron un duro tiempo terminando el proyecto a tiempo.
that's simply not how native Spanish speakers talk. If you're learning Spanish from Spain, pasarlas canutas is a very common informal expression. In many Latin American countries, you're much more likely to hear,
La pasaron mal para terminar el proyecto a tiempo.
so, if you want to say, I have a hard time understanding native Spanish speakers, don't say,
Yo tengo un duro tiempo entendiendo a hablantes nativos de español.
instead, you can say,
Me cuesta entender a los hablantes nativos de español. Me resulta difícil entender a los hablantes nativos de español. Tengo problemas para entender a los hablantes nativos de español. Las paso canutas para entender a los hablantes nativos de español.
keep in mind that pasar las canutas is a very informal expression that's specific to Spain. In many Latin American countries, people are more likely to say,
La pasaron mal.
likewise, If you're learning Spanish from Spain, you're much more likely to hear,
Lo pasaron mal para terminar el proyecto a tiempo.
whereas in many Latin American countries, you're more likely to hear,
La pasaron mal para terminar el proyecto a tiempo.
That's it for today. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.